and 604 million for the development of special economic zone, textile park in Naivasha, and 2.4 billion for Kenya jobs and economic transformation. These measures will deepen industrial clustering and create high-quality jobs. Mr. Speaker, I further propose 500 million for coffee cherry revolving fund, 2 billion for coffee debt waivers, and 2.7 billion for sugar sector reforms in order to stabilize key agricultural industrial value chains and protect livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, to prepare our youth for industry needs, I propose Kenya shillings 500 million for construction of industrial research laboratories that will foster innovation, internship, and industry academia collaboration. Now, improving security, which is of concern to all of us. Mr. Speaker, a safe and stable environment is indispensable for investment, trade, and economic growth. I therefore propose 252.1 billion for defense, 144.7 billion for the National Police Service, 64 billion for the National Intelligence Service, 63.9 billion for internal security and the national administration, and 42.6 billion for prison services. And these allocations strengthen national security and uphold the rule of law. Specific security interventions or investments include 13 billion to cater for leasing of police motor vehicles, 7 billion for police modernization program, 1 billion for construction and modernization of national forensic facilities. I have also proposed 3.9 billion for stipend to village elders for the first time, something that has been talked about for years, to enhance local administrative capacities, to appreciate. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, let me repeat. I have also proposed 3.9 billion for stipend to village elders to enhance local administrative capacities and to appreciate and recognize the role played by village elders in helping address security and other societal challenges. Mr. Speaker, allow me now to turn to protecting the vulnerable groups in our society. Mr. Speaker, social safety nets remain central to BETA's objective of poverty reduction and inclusive growth. Strengthen safety nets, protect livelihoods, create pathways out of poverty, and enable economically excluded households to participate in productive activities. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In this regard, I propose 41.8 billion to protect the vulnerable Kenyans, including 24.6 billion for cash transfers to the elderly persons, 8.9 billion for cash transfers to orphans and vulnerable children, and 1.5 billion for cash transfers to persons living with severe disabilities. These measures provide immediate relief and sustain basic consumption. And Mr. Speaker, the allocation also includes 4.3 billion for the Kenya Hunger Safety Net Program, 550 million for the National Fund for the Disabled of Kenya, 1.1 billion for the Child Welfare Society of Kenya, and 200 million to support autism and albinism programs in order to strengthen social protection and community support systems. Under equity, poverty reduction, women and youth empowerment. Mr. Speaker, anchored on the Kenya Young People's Agenda, we are funding key government interventions that will equip young youth with entrepreneurial and life skills, promote local and international employment, and unlock opportunities for youth-owned MSMEs. Mr. Speaker, the government will also fund initiatives that advance gender equality by promoting meaningful inclusion of women in decision-making, enhancing their economic empowerment, and in intensifying efforts to eliminate gender-based violence and harmful practices such as female genital mutilation. Mr. Speaker, to empower youth, women, and constituencies across the country, I propose 110.2 billion for targeted initiatives. This includes 12.5 billion for the National Youth Service, 4.9 billion to National Youth Opportunity Towards Advancement, that is NYOTA project, 1.6 billion for Youth Employment Support Program, and 1 billion for film development services. This investment will spur skills development, civic engagement, and growth in creative industry. Mr. Speaker, to support women and girls, I propose 402 million for the Women Enterprise Fund and 4.9 billion for the National Government Affirmative Action Fund to enhance their inclusion, dignity, and economic participation. Mr. Speaker, to promote regional equity and strengthen local development, I propose 61.8 billion for the National Government Constituency Development Fund, 10.3 billion for the Equalization Fund to finance programs in marginalized areas, and 10.5 billion for the Kenya Devolution Support Program number 2. In stimulating tourism growth, sports, culture, recreation, and arts. Mr. Speaker, sports and arts are vital for national identity, youth empowerment, and economic diversification. We will therefore promote sports at all levels, enforce international anti-doping standards, and commercial and indigenous knowledge to create livelihood opportunities. To harness national talent and promote Kenya as a regional cultural hub, I propose 45.6 billion for sports, culture, recreation, and tourism, including 25.2 billion for sports, arts and social development fund, 14.3 billion for the tourism fund, and these allocations will stimulate jobs, community development, and foreign exchange earnings. Under environment protection or environmental protection, water and natural resources, Mr. Speaker, environmental conservation, climate resilience, forest reforestation, biodiversity protection, and land restoration are central to sustainable development. Access to clean water, improved sanitation, and expanded irrigation are equally crucial for health, productivity, and agricultural growth. Towards this end, I propose an allocation of 124.8 billion for the cluster. And Mr. Speaker, to safeguard ecosystem and tackle climate risk, I propose 13.4 billion for forest resources conservation and management, 1.7 billion for forest research and development. I also propose 3.2 billion for tree growing campaign. Mr. Speaker, I further propose 4.7 billion for environment management and protection, 8.9 billion for the Kenya Financing Locally Led Climate Action Project, FLOCA, and 1.8 billion for meteorological service. Mr. Speaker, in order to support solid waste management in Nairobi, I propose 2.5 billion and 1 billion for the removal of asbestos as well. Additional targeted allocations in this sector include 13 billion for wildlife security, conservation and management, 1.2 for wildlife research and development, 1.1 billion for human-wildlife conflict compensation, 800 million for wildlife insurance. And these investments protect natural capital that underpins tourism and rural livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, to expand water infrastructure and ensure water security, I propose 51.5 billion for water and sewerage infrastructure development, 6.3 billion for water resource management, 2.5 billion for water storage and flood control. Mr. Speaker, to promote irrigation development in the country and reduce reliance on rain-fed agriculture, I propose 1.1 billion for irrigation and drainage development, 1.8 billion for large-scale commercial irrigation development, 3.3 billion for community-managed irrigation development, 3 billion for public irrigation schemes, 1.6 billion for revitalization of irrigation in asal areas, and these allocations will improve access, productivity, and resilience in agriculture and settlement. Now, improving governance and sustaining the fight against corruption. Mr. Speaker, strong institutions and adherence to the rule of law are prerequisites for sustainable development. Effective governance strengthens investor confidence and ensures efficient delivery of public services. To strengthen accountability and the rule of law, I propose 5.1 billion for the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, 7 billion for the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, 6 billion to the State Law Office, 9.8 billion for the Office of the Auditor General, and these allocations will intensify anti-corruption efforts and reinforce public sector integrity. Mr. Speaker, to enhance parliamentary oversight and legislative functions, I propose 50.9 billion for Parliament. Further, to support administration of justice, I propose 30.4 billion for the judiciary. These allocations are essential to uphold democracy, transparency, and citizen trust in public institutions. Now, allocations to county governments. Mr. Speaker, the government remains committed in supporting devolution through intergovernmental fiscal transfers in line with Article 202 of the Constitution. I therefore propose to allocate 428 billion in equitable share, which shall be transferred to the respective county governments as per the first basis formula during the financial year 26-27. The 428 billion represents 21% of the most recently audited revenues for the financial year 22-23, way higher than the minimum of 15% prescribed in Article 203(2) of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, including the additional allocation from the national government share of revenue of 16.6 billion to the proposed shareable of 428 billion, implies that the county governments will receive a total of Kenya shillings 444.6 billion, just a few billions, less than about 5 billion less than what is in the 10-point agenda. Further to this allocation, I have proposed an additional allocation of 57.4 billion from loans and grants from development partners. Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury has developed the Draft Public Finance Management Bill 2025, which proposes to amend Sections 42 and 191 of the Public Finance Management Act, CAP 412. These amendments aim to provide for submission of two separate bills, one on the county government's additional allocations, national government share of revenue bill, and the other on proceeds from loans and grants from development partners bill. This will mitigate delays in the approval and disbursement of county government's additional allocations. Now let me speak or talk about equalization fund. Mr. Speaker, to support implementation of projects in the marginalized areas, 10.3 billion has been proposed as an allocation to the equalization fund in the financial year 26-27. Mr. Speaker, now I turn to county government's pending bills. Mr. Speaker, the growing stock of pending bills in county government poses a fiscal risk. As of 30th June 2025, county governments reported outstanding pending bills of 183 billion. And Mr. Speaker, during its 27th ordinary session, the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council, IBEC, approved and adopted the county government's pending bills action plan submitted by the Controller Budget. The Council directed all county governments to customize and implement their respective pending bills action plans to progressively reduce the stock of pending bills. I urge county governments to ensure full implementation of the agreed action plans. Now let me turn to taxation measures. Having talked about expenditure, the money being allocated here and there, now it is the time to see where money is coming from. Taxation measures. Mr. Speaker, following the tragic events of 25th June of 2024, which I hope will never be repeated again in this country, a day that remains etched in our hearts, government was reminded of the need to always listen to the voices of our citizens. As I mentioned at the beginning of this statement, I championed public engagements with Kenyans of all walks of life while putting together this budget and the supporting policy measures. Mr. Speaker, over the last 1 month, focus has been more on the Finance Bill 2026. And like I mentioned, I engaged Kenyans widely in town hall meetings, various media stations, Bunge la Mwananchi at Jivanji Gardens here in Nairobi, Ongata Rongai in Kajiado, comrades at the University of Nairobi, Citizen Digital Express, just to mention but a few. I wish to thank all Kenyans who took time to attend these forums and engage with me. My assurance is that their voices have been reflected in the proposal that I'm presenting today. Mr. Speaker, in preparing these proposals, I have been guided by the overriding principle of placing the well-being of the common Mwananchi first. In this regard, I have deliberately chosen not to introduce new taxes or increase tax rates that would further overburden the hardworking Kenyans and their families. Instead, the measures are focused on reforms that improve efficiency in tax collection, create a fairness in the tax system, and broaden the revenue base without burdening the Mwananchi. Mr. Speaker, allow me to share a striking reality. Today, only 3.1 million working Kenyans contribute to pay as you earn. Yet, millions of other Kenyans that make money in our economy do not contribute to the taxes we collect. Many of these people have been filing nil returns year after year. The burden of developing this country has therefore been on a few of us. And Mr. Speaker, that this must change. We shall continue to broaden our tax base, a process that will help us lower tax rates to ease burden on the few that are tax compliant. Mr. Speaker, to support financing of the 2026-27 budget, I will today present highlights of two sets of proposals. The first set of proposals relates to custom measures agreed upon by the East African Community Ministers, Cabinet Secretaries responsible for finance and economic affairs during this year's pre-budget consultations held in Arusha, Tanzania on 15th May 2026, and which we will conclude this coming weekend. The measures agreed upon target to support local manufacturing, promote value addition, strengthen industrial competitiveness, enhance food security, protect jobs, and align the regional tariff structure with Kenya's economic development projects. The second set of proposals are contained in the Finance Bill of 2026. These measures are guided by three key principles. First, efficiency, to ensure tax collection is done with minimal leakages and ease compliance. Second, fairness, to ensure that the tax burden is shared equitably among all. And third, simplicity, to ensure that compliance with tax laws is straightforward, transparent, and predictable for all Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, the measures I present today, majority of which are targeted to simplify tax compliance and strengthen tax administration, are expected to yield an additional Kenya shillings 98.9 billion in terms of revenues. So let me turn to custom measures. Mr. Speaker, allow me to express my sincere appreciation to this House for the approval granted to the custom measures on 8th of May 2026, which are subsequently presented during the pre-budget consultations held in Arusha, Tanzania on 15th May of 2026. I wish to inform this House that all those measures were subsequently adopted by the East African Community Ministers, Cabinet Secretary responsible for finance and economic affairs. These measures will take effect from 1st July 2026. I will now highlight some of them. Mr. Speaker, high production costs continue to constrain growth and competitiveness of local industries, particularly where manufacturers rely on imported inputs that are not available locally. To lower the cost of production for our local industries and make locally produced goods affordable, Kenya secured an approval at the region to continue applying a 0% duty remission on selected inputs used in manufacture of pharmaceutical products, roofing materials, automotive parts for vehicles and motorcycles, and cold rooms for preservation, leather processing, and the assembly of smart mobile phones. Laptops and tablets. Kenya also secured approval to continue applying a duty remission rate of only 10% on selected inputs used in furniture and door manufacturing, as well as completely knocked down kits for assembly of motorcycles. Through these measures, jobs created by the industries in these categories remain protected to support livelihood of our people. Mr. Speaker, food security is one of the pillars under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and therefore remains a national priority. To support affordability of food and animal feeds by Kenyans, Kenya was allowed to continue importing wheat at a duty remission rate of 10% instead of the common external tariff rate of 35%. Continue importing imports for manufacture of animal feeds. I want to repeat. Continue importing inputs for manufacture of animal feeds duty-free under the East African Community Duty Remission Scheme, and apply a 0% import duty on dates consumed by our Muslim brothers and sisters during the period of Ramadan in 2027. Kenya also secured approval to continue applying an import duty of 35% or $200 per metric ton, whichever is higher, on imported rice instead of the common external tariff rate of 75% or $345 per metric ton. Mr. Speaker, to promote value addition of products locally grown by our farmers, Kenya was allowed a stay of application of East African Community common external tariff rates and apply a duty rate of 35% or equivalent specific duty rates on selected processed food products, including preserved vegetables, peas, sweet corn, tomato products, sauces, jams, edible oils, malt extract, and other prepared food products. This will cushion the local industries from imported products and make Kenyan products more competitive in the domestic market. Protect these agro-based industries, thus safeguarding income of our farmers and the local jobs created in the agro-processing value chain. Mr. Speaker, to protect local manufacturers in the textile, apparel, leather, and footwear sectors, and the many jobs in these industries, Kenya was granted an extension of a stay of application of EAC common standard tariff and apply higher duty rates ranging between 25% and 35% on imported textiles, apparel, blankets, bed linen, carpets, tarpaulins, leather products, and worn clothing, while maintaining 0% duty remission on selected inputs for leather processing. Mr. Speaker, to strengthen digital connectivity and part of the digital superhighway pillar of BETTER, the local assembly of smart devices remains a key priority. Expanding access to affordable smart telecommunication devices will enable more Kenyans participate in the digital economy and benefit from emerging opportunities in business and innovation. With this in mind, Kenya requested and was granted a 0% duty remission on inputs used in the assembly of smartphones, laptops, and tablets. Additionally, optical fiber cables and recorded software products will be imported at a higher tariff rate of 10% instead of the EAC common external tariff rate of 0%. Mr. Speaker, to lower the cost of construction materials for the delivery of affordable housing as part of BETTER priorities, Kenya was allowed to continue applying 0% duty remission on selected inputs for the manufacture of roofing materials and related industrial products. Further, to protect local industries that manufacture steel products, aluminum products, pipes, electrical equipment, ceramic tiles, and other construction materials, Kenya was also allowed to continue applying stays of application at duty rates ranging from 25% to 35%, together with equivalent specific duty rates where applicable, to discourage under declaration of import values. Mr. Speaker, given the limited fiscal space, Kenya continues to explore alternative financing models, particularly the public-private partnership arrangements in developing infrastructure projects. With this in mind, Kenya was granted a stay of application of the common tariff and apply a 0% import duty on goods, materials, and equipment imported for use in the PPP projects. Mr. Speaker, local assembly of motor vehicles and the manufacturing of automotive parts continue to create jobs for Kenyans. In this respect, Kenya applied to protect these industries and the associated value chain. Kenya was granted a 0% duty remission on selected inputs used in the manufacture of automotive parts. Mr. Speaker, to support local manufacturing of paper and paper products, Kenya was allowed to continue applying stays of application at a rate of 35% on craft paper and paperboard, printed polybags, sacks and bags, and related packaging materials instead of the common tariff rates of 25%. Mr. Speaker, to protect local manufacturers of household and industrial products and the jobs therein, Kenya will continue to the stays of application under the common tariff rates and apply rates ranging from 25 to 35%, together with equivalent specific duty rates where applicable on products including LPG stoves, cookware, aluminum products, steel products, electrical equipment, and related manufactured goods. Now let me turn to the highlights of proposals in the Finance Bill. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to the proposals in the Finance Bill 2026 that target to amend various domestic tax laws to improve revenue collection, ease tax compliance, and create fairness within the tax system. Under income tax, Mr. Speaker, currently certain corporate restructurings, such as mergers, amalgamations, or internal reorganizations are exempt from capital gains tax. To encourage the establishment and growth of real estate investment trusts, the bill is proposing to extend the exemption to qualifying property transfers into approved real estate investment